Okay, everyone, welcome to this evening's How to Coach the Goalkeeper workshop. My name is Will Harmon, Head of Coach Development for Ladies Gaelic Football, and I'm joined by a special guest tonight, Aoife McColgan. Aoife, do you want to say hello and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi guys. How are you getting on? My name's Aoife, as well as introduce me. I'm from Donegal, up the north of Donegal. In terms of why probably I'm on the webinar tonight, I have a couple of years, I'd say, of playing with Donegal, but as part of that, then I'm now involved in PhD research and where I'm looking at ladies Gaelic football and just trying to dig that little bit deeper into how the game's played and how what it takes to win, basically. And as being a goalkeeper, the first thing I decided to look at was the kickouts and what effect the goalkeeper has in the game. So I suppose that's possibly why I'm here tonight with you, is to let you know, give a bit of insight.
Excellent and welcome, Aoife. I'm delighted to have you on board. And yeah, I think having the research to back up what we're doing tonight is fantastic. Just bear in mind, it's a huge area, goalkeeping. We'll do our best to cover as many as we can tonight. But look, we hope you enjoyed. Any questions or queries throughout the evening, please, guys, just throw them into the chat function and we'll answer them as we go along. Just that you know, we are running a suite of workshops across the country at this present time, across numerous topics. And one of those topics is how to coach the goalkeeper. So we have F2 Go Games workshops, which is about an hour and a half long for any, I suppose, any coaches who like to try and introduce goalkeeping to their academy sessions up to under 12. And then we have how to coach the goalkeeper F3, so youth, adult, that older age groups. So it's about 3 hours long. So if you're interested in those workshops, guys, just go on to www.ladiesgaelic.ie and sign up for these up and coming workshops. So they're right across the country. Those there might be a few on tonight. There are I suppose, attending these workshops. We hope you're enjoying them to date. But just as you know, if you really enjoyed tonight, get on the workshop. We look forward to seeing you all. Right. Okay. So what we're going to cover tonight, by the end of the webinar, we're hoping that you'll have an idea of the key competencies around ladies Gaelic football, goalkeeping, observe the importance of the kick out, where Aoife's research will really come into play, and we'll give you a few ideas of little basic strategies you can implement in your sessions going forward. But I suppose everybody's aware of the Gaelic Games player pathway by now, hopefully. And what it's essentially about is how can we give every player that opportunity to be involved in our games? And I suppose our role as coaches is just be aware of what stage of development our players are at and apply the appropriate training. But if you're coaching girls who are outfield or even in goals, there's four key areas we try to identify in terms of developing the all-rounder player. That's technical, tactical, physical, and psychosocial. And when we look at it from a goalkeeper perspective, this is what we mean. So from a technical point of view, they're handling, how to catch the high ball, they're kicking, and there's various types of kicks, which we'll go through tonight. Hand passing, diving. Then you have the tactical about distribution, 1v1, positioning, vision. Physical aspect, again, physical diving is a physical act, I suppose. Footwork, reactions, reflexes, and that psychosocial around that ability to communicate with the players and also deal with setbacks. So when you look at the goalkeeper, you know, there's a lot of areas you need to work on in order to develop them to their full potential. And those are the four key areas we need to look at across the board at all times. But tonight, we hope we will cover as many as we can. If not, come to the workshops. We'll cover the rest of them for you. And we're looking forward to looking at Aoife's research as well around these key areas. But I suppose before we commence, anywhere or anybody we coach, whether it be an outfield player or a goalkeeper, we always apply the key coaching principles. You're probably sick of me saying these things, but I do believe that this is vital to coaching, you know, your ability to introduce what you're doing, because girls want to know why. Demonstrate. You might be able to demonstrate, but your players might be able to do that, or you might be able to use video work. Explain and keep it very sharp and to the point, using head, hand, feet, or what are those key buzzwords we need to know around the key competencies around those the goalkeeping actions. Get them trying it out and practicing, and then looking, observing. Well, what are we looking for? And then how do we give feedback so they can be the best they can be? So we're just refreshing our minds around these key areas before we delve a bit more deeper into the goalkeeping aspect of it. So I suppose, Aoife, there's a lot of kickouts out there, and we look at it from a goalkeeper's perspective. You know, the types of kicks that goalkeepers will utilize, that punt kick, which is if they're kicking a ball directly in front of them or facing their target. You have that instep or inside the boot, which I suppose if a player is running into space, they use that they open the body a bit more and they use the instep, which is the inside the boot, or they may use the outside the boot if they're going across their body, if they're going at a diagonal pass or kicking, I suppose, long into space. So there is a lot of variances in the kicks, Aoife.
Yeah.
Would you be
There's a
right
lot of
here?
variance in the kicks. Yeah, 100%. You would always try to have all three in the locker. But every goalkeeper is going to be more comfortable in one area than the other. One of the biggest ones is probably the pump kick and the instep for them short kickouts that have become, so popular in the last couple of years. In fact, the stat is 64% of kickouts are them short kickouts in and around the D area and the short kickouts. So it just shows how valuable them two types of kicks are. But as I say, it's good to have all three in the locker when you need them.
And I know people are watching the new rules from the men's side, and you're watching
Yeah.
tonight going, no, they're inside it either. But the rules in ladies football are different to the men's, so just bear that in mind when we're going through everything tonight. Come here to me,
Yeah.
your research, very interesting stuff. Can you explain to people what are they seeing here, Aoife?
Yeah, so as part of my research, I've looked at over 3,000 kickouts. So it's five
Wow.
years worth of kickouts. There's a lot of data in it. And within that data, we've been able to identify a drop zone, which is basically where the ladies Gaelic football goalkeeping kick-out range is. And what we identified that was inside the opposition 65. So no further than the opposition 65 is where most of the goalkeepers are able to kick the ball. If you look on the right, then you can see the center zone just there in and around the D area. That is the most popular zone for or with the highest retention rate for ladies Gaelic footballers. So on the left you have winning teams, and on the right you have losing teams. And you can see there it's a high percentage of kickouts are won, so it's 91% and 88% are what the retention zones are. So when we talk about them variations of kicks, it's the pump kick, it's the wee instep kick to get the ball away nice and sharp into them areas. It's where teams are having their success. But what's interesting is if you look there, the dark purple side to the right hand side, just between the 45 and the 65, that's where our keepers are kicking the ball. They're going for that long kick out outside the 45. Now with a slightly lower retention, which is really interesting because most of the keepers in the senior game, they're all right footers.
Yeah.
There, a lot of them would be right footed players, and naturally a lot of players you'd think would want to kick across their body. And it was one of the things that we were really interested to find is that, keepers are actually kicking to the outside of their body rather than coming across. And that's where the instep kick, it allows the keepers to open up their body and play with the instep out there or that outside of the boot. That's one of the three options. But it's just something that, we looked at this as an opportunity then if we give coaches this information, if they want to set up an opposition press, they know the zone now and where the keepers can kick the ball. If you're looking to do something like that, this is the zone that you can really target.
And interesting enough, and we'll probably see later on, I suppose, if you are going to that left hand side, it's the outside of the boot, and naturally they'll use it across the body
Yeah.
to kick into to get distance and I suppose space. Yeah, interesting stuff. I hope you're enjoying it so far,
Yeah.
everyone. Yeah, so let's see how we go. So I suppose the punt kick, everyone. So if you are coaching the punt kick, I suppose just for you to be aware, head, hands, feet is obviously keep the eye on the ball, drop the ball with the hand you're kicking with, point your toe down, and follow through. And I suppose we did actually workshop everyone on perfecting the kick recently. So go back and observe that. We go into a bit more detail. But I suppose still, even though it's the goalkeeper, you still have to coach the skill of punt kicking. So you need to have you need to be aware of the head, hands, feet around that. So eyeing the ball, drop the ball with the hand you're kicking with. Okay, point your toe down, follow through. But for distance and accuracy, it's the follow through that's very important. So the backswing and the follow through are very important in those phases. So when you're coaching the punt kick, when you're doing your kick out strategies, it's very important that you need to know what you're looking for from that aspect as well. And that's important. And as well with the inside the boot, the same applies. So when you're coaching your kickouts, the goalkeeper must be able to execute the skills to the level they need to be in order to get your kickouts out. So same thing applies when you're coaching the instep or inside the boot, eyeing the ball. Okay, but the difference is that you're kicking with the instep or just inside the boot. And what's vitally important is that follow through in terms of the direction that you're kicking. And I suppose really it's just being aware that the different types of kicks, but also what are the key teaching points around those kicks, because there's no point trying to implement a kick out strategy, Aoife, if we
Mhm.
don't, as coaches, be able to, I suppose, give feedback to our goalkeepers and how to execute this kick as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's, possibly sometimes it's you're given the keeper strategies, but can the keeper carry out them strategies? But
Yes,
this is just an example of it's Abby with the Dublin ladies, and it just shows how easy it is. Her defender gets that half a yard of space, and away she goes with the instep. It's just a dink to the edge of the D, and that's, as we talk about, that's that zone which we just touched on. It's so popular for keepers just to dig the ball into it. And she's actually played that ball in front of her player there for her to run onto. So, it's a sympathetic pass is what you would call kind of the instep. You let the player run onto the ball and then Dublin are away. They're out. Cork have gone player for player for there. So Dublin are away and they're ready to play.
and
The second style of it then is, sorry,
you okay. And I suppose, sorry, and I suppose in there, just looking at that, is that again, having the ability to kick with the instep or the inside the boot allows a bit more control, Aoife.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a slightly you gather more control of the ball as you kick with the instep.
And you
Whereas
kick,
when
yeah,
maybe when you go with the laces, it can go on the outside or can go on the inside.
or
But
maybe too
with
straight
the
even.
instep,
It could be too
yeah,
straight, whereby you're kind of getting that into space there for the player to run into. So you're guiding it and you're giving that. Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Anything else in that, Aoife, before I move it on for you?
Yeah, it just probably aside from the kick out, it's another factor that's come into goalkeeping now. We've seen it really come into the game in the men's game, but see how Abby actually follows the play. She kicks and she's away to go and support the play then. And that's becoming coming into the ladies' game now where the goalkeepers have to be able to go and play as well. So it's just something to touch on. Instill the confidence in your goalkeepers. Give the ball and go. Get after it and go support after you've given the kick out.
And the same applies to your outfield players, isn't it? Really, but like you've
Yeah.
always supported your pass and go, pass and move. Same
Mhm.
applies to your goalkeepers. Get them to that area of passing and moving and be that option. Okay, this one. What's this? What's happening here?
Yeah, so this is the instep again, but this is just slightly different. This is Monica with the Meath Ladies, and it just shows that the instep can be both short and a long kick out. You're not condensed to the instep being that dink around the D that we talk about. This is an absolutely fantastic kick. Donegal have a really strong press on here at the moment. And Monica's just able to pick out her midfielder and put it right in the pocket with that instep. So when you talk about the accuracy that comes with the instep, that is it on full display there in terms of being able to play the ball and go. Now it's lovely for the dinks when we talk about pockets and pockets on the left and right hand side, just within the 45, a really popular pocket as well that the instep is lovely to dink the ball into there as well. But as I say, it's good to have all three in the locker. And each kick has its time and its moment.
Exactly, and everyone, as we said, the perfect the kick webinar. It's important our goalkeepers are exposed to these type of kicks and the different
Mhm.
the different distances. Now you saw the research from IFA to show you where the ball, those various, shall I say, pockets where the ball lands. Then maybe getting our goalkeepers practicing into those various pockets. Now that we know where the success rates are, it's just something to be aware of. It might help with your coaching. So just look. Here's a visual to show you the difference between that punt kick and the inside the step or inside the boot. So you're hitting at that center of the ball, right on top of the foot or on top of the laces, whereby with the inside the boot, it's just at the side of the boot is the center point of contact. So just to give you a visual. Again, if you want to know more about kicking, we have a webinar specific on it. But we just want to give you a visual and just a refresher around the different types of kicks. And I suppose in terms of the punt kick and the inside the boot. Then we have the outside of the boot, and I suppose it's one that's coming into the game a bit more. Again, we were speaking to Sarah Dorn around this, and obviously the inside boot is starting to really come up. The punt kick was very high 20 years ago. The punt kick was the main kick in ladies football. Now it's gone into the inside the boot, but actually the outside of the boot kick is starting to creep in a small bit more as well. And again, if you're coaching the outside of the boot, it's just being aware of the head, hands, feet. And I suppose the big difference with the outside of the boot is really you're kicking across the body with the outside of the boot. And it's very important. That's the probably key teaching points is you're kicking across the belly and you're obviously you're getting balance with your opposite arm and obviously your opposite foot or leg. But I suppose for kickouts, it is probably used a lot more, Aoife, because of we have to get the ball. If we're not left-legged, if we're not able to work off both sides of the body, then we have to get a kick across the body to get it to the left side of the field, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Is here
and
the
it's predominantly now in the longer kickouts you'll see here, with Kira Butler with the Kerry ladies. It goes the outstep is or mainly used with them long kicks. Do you know, when
yes,
we're gonna come across her body there to kick the ball out, and likewise an absolutely fantastic kick. Do you know, pick the pocket is what you would say there, but do you know, it's them longer kicks is where generally that outside of the boot is used. And maybe, you know, that's what the visual that we talked about earlier, where keepers are maybe looking to use that instep a wee bit more, you know, that out to the right hand side pocket with the predominantly right footed players, that, you know, the increase in this across the body kick or this outside of the boot kick will probably come in more when keepers, you know, practice that and have that in the locker. But this is just it on full display here in terms of how well it can work. It's just, you know, it's a brilliant kick. That's a serious press that Mayo have on there as well. And
exactly.
she just puts it in the bread basket, as they call it.
And I suppose really goes back, everyone, no matter who it is, when you're doing your ball formalization stuff, when you're doing your skill development stuff, when your teams, ensuring that all players are exposed to all kicks, and the goalkeeper is the exact same. So I suppose, Eva, I would include the goalkeeper in our skill development section now because of the vital importance of practicing those kicks. Obviously, they can practice on their own 100%, but in the skill development, where everybody's working on the skill development area, there's no harm in including the goalkeeper, Eva.
Yeah, I would 100%. If you're doing a kicking drill, a hand passing drill, any of that, get the keepers involved. Do you know, let them kick because
Yeah.
that's, you know, it's such a huge part. Get them in, get them kicking. Do you know, don't send the keeper away on their own to, you know, mess around on their own for a wee while. There's times for that, but if you're doing a kicking drill or you know, anything that involves them key skills in the game, the keeper has to be able to do that as well. So get them involved, is what I would say.
So see, commit, execute. So we have coaches going back to their coaching sessions next few weeks, and we're going to hear them saying, see, commit, execute. What do we mean by that, Aoife?
Yeah. So this is kind of three words that I've coined through the research that in terms for the goalkeepers getting the kick out away, and we're probably transitioning now into talking about our kick out a bit, but they come down to three simple things. So when your goalkeeper's coming out with the ball, they have to be able to see it. So they have to be able to see the run, see the players making the run, and the ways that we can help them do that, repetition. Run the kickouts. You know, there's no point standing with a wee whiteboard at the start of the game and talking about a kickout strategy for the first time ever. You've got to bring it into your training. Run it, run it, run it. Run it unopposed. Let the keeper just get to know the players, let them know what runs they make. Throw in a few defenders and then throw in a press. You know, add that progression through it, but help the keeper to see it. The other way that we would do that, if you have access to video, let the keeper see video. Get them watching the games. Get them watching their senior county keeper. Look what they do. You know, as let them see it to, you know, understand what's happening. The second part then is commit. So once the keeper sees that kick out, sees that run, that this is where the coaches kind of come in. It's instilling that confidence in the keeper to go, you kick it. You know, if the keeper sees it, let them kick it. You know, and if it doesn't come off, that's why I would always say never, you know, give out to them or you know, give them a hard time. If that keeper has seen something, they think that's the right decision. Let them have the confidence to instill it in them to commit to it. And once you see it, kick it. Because that it could be over in a split second. The run could be tracked. So once they see it, tell them to kick it or instill the confidence in them to kick it. And then the final part then is the execute. And that's where we talk about heads, hands, feet and how that comes into your training. Your keeper has to be able to execute the kick, but your outfield players have to be able to execute it then as well to be able to catch the ball and play.
I
So
think
that's just three words that I've
that's
coined
I
through
think it's
through.
important though, Aoife, that you made a very good point that the goalkeeper will see, commit, and execute. The players outside need to do their jobs too, don't
Yeah.
they? Yeah, and
Yeah, yeah. But there's a big wheel. It's a big wheel. Everybody's involved in the kick out. This is just it in full flow. So Monica has come. You can see her. She's scanning. She's looking. She's looking. She's actually looking to calm the game down. But look, she sees something. She's lifting the ball. Gone. It's away, and the kick's away, and Meath are on the attack. So it's just scan, scan, scan as you come out. You're looking for the options. As soon as you see it, bam, she's away. There's what, a second, 2 seconds from when she sees it and the ball is played. Um, so it's just it in full flow, and it's, I suppose it's the quality and the caliber of the keeper that Monica is, and the team that we all know Meath ladies are. But it's just something so important, and it's that confidence to, I've seen it, I'm going to kick it, instill that within your keepers. That's one of the big points I would take from it.
Yeah, I think that's a nice one. Yeah, yeah, and get our keepers to be confident. It's like coaching the outfield player.
Yeah,
Let's be confident,
yeah,
but be confident.
yeah.
And I suppose we as coaches have a clear role to help in. I suppose A, obviously we have our strategies in place. B, also that we're able to give feedback in terms of distribution and what kick they use,
Mhm.
and also the outfield players obviously playing a role in that. So that's very interesting. I suppose really what we have coming up next is just a few ideas of what does these kickouts, what they look like, and maybe the role of the goalkeeper. Aoife, what do we see here?
Yeah. So part of the research is we've now defined five offensive strategies. So it's ways that senior ladies Gaelic teams are winning the ball and they're winning their kickouts. And the first one, I'm sure everybody here has seen the bunch and
Sorry.
break. So it's the definition we've come up with is that the team in possession gathers centrally in zones 2, 5, and 8. And then, as we know, at once, it's often at the chosen signal of the goalkeeper. Our players make various runs at all angles and speeds out to the wings. And this is the Kerry ladies doing it against Armagh, where you see they all break out to the middle and the kick out is away. And then, in terms of how successful that kick out actually is, the senior ladies teams, they're winning these kickouts 77% of the time, which is very good in terms of how successful that strategy is.
Okay, so the bunch
Moving
and
on then.
yeah, the bunch and break might be one, huh? It might be something everybody's going to be practicing so tonight. But again, though,
Exactly, exactly.
it goes back to the ability to execute, isn't it? Really, it's the ability to execute it. The goalkeeper having
Yeah.
that confidence to see it, to commit to it, and then execute the skill or the technique
Mhm.
of the kick. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I suppose here, Aoife, is people going, well, geez, you mentioned earlier on, Aoife, about practicing on a pose, but here is an actual pattern of play that you could do in a session. Obviously, this is from goal to goal, how to get the ball from back to front. But the goalkeeper plays a big role in this. And this is kind of like showing you the bunch and break with no opposition. And I suppose this is something
Yeah.
that we do an awful lot in our level two coaching program, patterns of play. But here's the example of what it looks like. So here's the goalkeeper again, just executing that inside the boot kick into space, defender, no one on him, just making that run, and we'll just start it off. So again, it goes up the field, but we'll just start here. So again, it starts with the goalkeeper, you're kicking the ball out, and it's done at real high pace. So there's no one marking him, but it's done at real high pace where the goalkeeper sees it, commits, and executes. And therefore, then the ball moves up. So I suppose, Aoife, this is an example of what you were talking about earlier on, is that we're doing things unopposed at high pace, but it's all about,
Yeah.
I suppose, knowing what the next person is doing. But again, the execution of the skills, the basic skills, are vitally important for this to work.
Yeah, exactly. And that's so simple to run in a session. I know some players might, or some people might look at it and go, oh, we're doing this on a pose. Is this? But it becomes, the thing is that becomes second nature, so that when the pressure is on, that, you know, the girls will go, I've done this before. I know I can do this. And, I back myself, and it becomes second nature. And that becomes the baseline rather than thinking, oh God, what do we do here now?
Yeah.
So it's something so simple. It's so easy to incorporate into your session, to practice these kickouts on a post first and then play then, and progress it. It's not going to be perfect from
Yeah.
the get-go. So you've got to progress it then after, but only when people have grasped it, and you're ready to move on, I'd say, is probably
And everyone,
the
this
main
could
point.
apply from under 14 upwards. No problem at all. This
Mhm.
can apply to under 14 upwards. You could be doing these sort of activities. And if I'm actually watching here, this girl, I think, uses the outside of the boot, the goalkeeper. I'm just watching her. She actually does use the outside of the boot. She hits with the outside of the
Yeah,
boot. I just saw it there. And I've been watching this for years, and I still just recognize now she's using the outside of the boot for her kick. Oh, cool. Right. So purposeful movement. What's this about?
yeah. So when we were watching games, it's so hard to bracket kickouts into an umbrella term. And the purposeful movement kind of came for us, and how we defined it when, there's no set strategy there. It's not so clear in what teams are doing, but it's when the team is in possession, they're making a number of dynamic runs with at intent. Intent is the key word there, and that the players that are moving, they're moving with intent to create space and make it difficult for the opposition players to track. And this was successful 84% of the time. So it was really, really successful for teams that used it when it's executed. It's that execution. When it's executed correctly, this can be really, really effective. But this takes coaching. This isn't something that you go and you say to your players, just move. Do you know, it's not, it doesn't work if you just go, just move. It has to be coached. So it's that on the post that we talk about and then go from there. It
Yeah.
has to be coached.
I think you've hit very good points there. Has to be coached. Everybody needs to know their role. And for it to be
Mhm.
executed, everybody needs to commit to that, to commit and be
Yeah.
purposeful around it. And it will, yeah, but again, it comes back to a confident goalkeeper. And I suppose
Yeah.
everybody being confident, again, in terms of knowing what they see, they commit to it, and then they execute the basic skill to make it work. Flat four, you know,
The flat four then, this was very popular for getting away a short kick out. You can see here, it's when the team in possession places four players across the 21-meter line. All other players then gather in that bunch and break format in and around the D area. Um, so it's this kick out was used predominantly for the short kickouts, and as you can see there on the screen, it was successful 85% of the time.
okay, all
For
right,
our girls when they win the ball. So them first three kickouts there, so your bunch and break, your flat flow four, and your purposeful movement, them three kickouts were significantly associated with winning the kickout. So they were the big three kickouts that we, linked with kickout success in terms of senior intercounty football. So, they're so simple. Like there's nothing complex about these kickouts. But as we say, it's that execution and repetition that you practice them and you're ready to go.
I think that's important, everyone. Listen to what's been saying. I think it's that repetition. Repetition. It's like with the kicking, and when we're doing the Master the Kick webinar, you need to expose players to these scenarios. You can expose players to these opportunities. So, and continued repetitions is very important. Overload. Okay, what's this about?
Yeah, so it's another probably very popular one. People are probably looking at this and going, "Oh, these are so simple," but these are the first time. It's the first time any of these have been defined or analyzed. So the definition we came up was the team in possession overpopulates one side of the pitch, and what happens then is you create a numerical advantage over your opponent. So Kerry have done this here. They've created a 6v3 with Meath. But what we found is that this kick out, it does, it can be a bit of a scrap to win the ball because it can
Mhm.
be messy with the amount of numbers. Um, it wasn't as high in the success rate in terms of how successful the kick out was in actually winning initial possession. But if you won this possession, this was a kick out that created scores.
Okay.
This was a kick out that created goals on the opposition. So say if Kerry win this kick out, they have the numbers in and around the kick out there to transition quickly, get up the pitch. There's numbers to support, and this kick out created scores. This was the highest kick out in terms of the opposite end of the pitch. That quick transition, get up, kick a score, take a go, kick a goal. This was the big one in terms of creating scoring opportunities.
Interesting enough, even because if you look at the men's game at the present time, and I suppose a lot of kickers come outside the 40-meter arc, and it's a longer kick. What you notice is whoever wins the middle of the field battle, if your own team wins it, you're on the attack straight away, aren't you? Like so,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
actually so it makes sense
It's
now what
it's
you're
the
saying there.
age old,
Yeah,
it's the age old debate of risk reward. Do you know what do you want to do? Do you want to be risky, kick that long ball? You may be risky not winning as many, but you will score, or do you want to go short, play it safe, and try and work it through that transition play up the pitch? It's what you're willing to do. It's the gem of Gaelic football, isn't it? Risk
yeah,
reward.
exactly.
What do you
Risk
do?
reward, but I suppose it comes back to the type of players you have too. Do you know what type of players you have
Exactly.
and what works best
Exactly.
for the group that you have, and I think that's important as well to bear in mind and to really,
Yeah.
you know.
And Kerry would use that kick out probably more than others, but Kerry have quite a few big tall girls in
Yes.
and around the middle of the field that can break the ball down. Do you know? So it's playing to your strengths. It's what you have, that can win possession for you.
And I suppose the other
Now,
opposite side is if movement ain't what it should be, this what could happen.
yeah. So sometimes, unfortunately, teams, be it through fatigue or just limited movement. It was just something we had to coin for when there was no movement for the keeper. And the definition that we coined for that was teams in possession are static, offering limited options for the goalkeeper. Runs are made with little intent, jog, and from a limited number of players. And unfortunately, this is Waterford involved in this. But when you were found in this kick out, teams only won 47% of kickouts when they were identified to have limited movement. So it just shows how detrimental that can be when I would my unscientific term would have been the keeper is looking out at 10 or 12 statues. So you don't want to be statues. We're trying to avoid that as much as possible in terms of the kick out.
Yeah, and I suppose it goes back to again is just everybody plays a role in it, not just the goalkeeper. The
Yeah,
goalkeeper is there, they
yeah,
see, commit, they execute, but what's happening in front of them really determines an awful lot of the outcome as well. So that's a very good observation. Let's go to defensive strategies before we go into the nuances of things. So tell me about
yeah.
this. Yeah, the 9 zones
So
created.
defensive
Yeah.
strategies, it's massive. Two sources of possession in the game are through turnovers and kickouts.
Yes.
And if you can win the opposition kick out, how close are you to goal? Do you know, if you think about it that way, how close are you to the goal when you win the opposition kick out? So the way that we defined this, we had to split the pitch up into 9 zones. That's just what that last slide was. 9 zones, 3 across the front, 3 in the middle, 3 in the back. Simples. The first kick out then, like all of these, you will be looking at these going, yeah, we know what these are. But the zonal press is when one or more players, opposition players, attempt to occupy that zones 1 through 9. So Meath, across their couple of years of success coming up through the ranks, were really, really successful in executing the opposition kick out press. So you see there, they've actually committed. You have 4 across the front line with a 4 in the middle as well, and then a 3 at the back. So they actually play a 4-4-3, which is 11 players they've committed. So it's, as we say, risk reward. What do you do? Are you going to go for it? Are you not? But it can be really, really successful in terms of, and teams that commit these numbers, that's where they get their rewards in. So that
And
was just the first one that we found.
I think it's just, again, I just go back to this one here about the zones. Just even helping with that zonal press is just knowing those zones and being aware from tonight. Okay, right, where are those zones and where they, where do we need to be focusing
Yeah,
on? Yeah, very good.
yeah.
And this one here, player to player. So this is going, I suppose, player to player and giving no,
Yeah,
yeah,
it is what it says on the tin. Exactly. So the definition is when the defensive players attempt to stay within 1 meter of the opposition players during kick-out movements. This is Armagh against Monaghan executing it. Um, so there's not much to it, it's as it says, you go player to player, you stick tight to your marker and you hold on for dear life and away you go and try and stick with that nippy quarterback going into the corners. But also very effective in terms
very
of
effective. Yeah. But I suppose with that one again, though, there's always one player on the team that may just switch off for half a second. And therefore,
exactly,
your goalkeeper has to
exactly.
have the confidence to see, commit, and execute, don't they, really?
Yeah. And that's what we found. If you are going to adapt these presses, what we found is teams that adapt to them depends on their style of player. If you
Yeah.
have a player that isn't as quick, or you have a couple of players that may not be as quick, you've got to think as maybe a zonal press the best thing that I can do here.
Mhm.
Do you know that you can't be if them players go to sleep. That's the other thing. These outfield players
That's it.
sometimes they
Yeah.
tend to just switch off. Do you
Exactly.
know? But
Exactly.
it's
Exactly.
just playing to what you have. The third and final one then is to concede the kick out. Just the defensive team makes no attempt to pressure the goal kick and concedes that primary possession. So you can see there, this is Meath. Meath used to do this as well throughout. Generally, when this is used is say there's a strong breeze in the first half, and it's kind of limiting that option for the keeper to actually kick the ball out over the top of your press. But what was found, just it's kind of an interesting step with the conceding the kick out. Although they didn't win the initial kick out, the turnover rate then from the subsequent attack of that team was higher. So teams were able to drop off into that defensive structure, get set up, and they actually ended up turning over the kick out or turning over the ball then and being able to win more possessions. So they conceded less scores in their own half. So risk reward again. Do you want to score and press the kick out? Or are you willing to drop off and concede less scores? So
Again,
it's the balancing act.
it balancing act goes back to who your players are and what players you have, don't it, really?
Yeah.
And I suppose what strategy works best for your team. I'm just looking here,
Yeah.
even, yeah, sorry, Aoife.
No, as I say, it all depends. And as I say, other elements may affect it. The wind, the rain.
Yeah.
We live in a very blustery country. Um, we could rock up on a Sunday morning and play into a gale force breeze. It's just, it's how you adapt to what
Yeah.
your situations are,
But
you know.
you have to practice all these various scenarios in
Hmm.
your sessions. All your players need to know what their role is, and all players need to be able to execute the various roles that they have. But also, the goalkeeper plays a huge role here in terms of having the confidence. And you see here with this still here, she's a lot of the goalkeepers tonight are using the inside the boot, which is very interesting. They're open
Yeah,
up their body, and they're primarily they're going right. So it's very interesting,
yeah,
guys. Maybe
yeah.
it's something that we could be learning tonight for your own strategies going forward.
Mhm.
Okay, it's a numbers game. What is this saying,
Yeah.
Aoife?
So this is saying basically, so if you look on the left, as we go up through the steps on the graph, so your left is your zonal press and your right is your player to player press. As teams commit more numbers to the press, your success rate on turning over the opposition kick out increases.
Okay.
So if you look there, in a zonal press, so the second last one in from the left is when 8 to 10 players are committed. But if you look at when that's that still that we looked at from Meath, they committed 11 bodies to the press, the zonal press, 48% retention on the opposition kickout. So if you commit, once the team commits 8 players, the retention on the opposition kickout, it nearly doubles. So if you look at there, it goes from 14, it does double 14 to 30% on a zonal press, and it's close to doubling on a player to player press from 14 to 25%. 25%. The other thing we found that influences this is your duration. So we define duration as from the ball going dead to the keeper kicking the ball. If you want to try and beat the press, the quicker you get the ball out once it goes dead, the less chance the team is going to have to get the press set up. What we found is that after 10 seconds, good teams, successful teams in the senior championship, they take 10 seconds to get their press set up, properly set up, from when the kick out goes. So it's just something to be conscious of for your keeper as well in a game. Keep a ball at the post. As soon as the ball goes dead, bam, she's at the post, pick it up, away you go and play. Play what you see, as they say.
And I'm thinking here as a coach going, well, why is that? Why is there struggling with zonal presses of player to player? I know do a lot of teams have kick out strategies, and that's something for us as coaches need to be very much aware of,
Mm.
that we have to think of what if this happens? What if this happens?
Yeah.
And we have to, I suppose, educate our players and get our players practicing, these scenarios in games now or in our training so that we can cope and adapt when we see these various
Yeah.
situations.
Exactly. And this slide here is just adapting to what you see. So on the left you have the five strategies against a player to player press. On the
Hmm.
right you have the five strategies against a zonal press. So you can see there's a 10% difference in the retention rate against a player to player press and a zonal press. So from that, you can see the bunch and break is 10% more effective against a player to player press than it is against a zonal. Likewise, in reverse, the flat four is more successful against a zonal press than it is against the player to player press. So it's sometimes it could be up to the coach on the line to go, oh, that's a zonal press. Maybe we should go to, a bunch and break. Or, the keeper, give the keeper and the players that information to go, if you see this, play this way. If you
Yeah.
see this, play this way. It's just wee tips that you can take and go, well, these are what these strategies are effective with and how they work against different defensive strategies.
And I suppose with coaching everyone, if you think about the scenarios, you'll be able to adapt a lot better. So think about what it is
Mhm.
you want to do, plan accordingly, and allow your players to deliver, adapt in the high pressure environments as well. So what's this saying?
Limited movement. We're back to that old story again where we have our statues. But limited movement against a player to player press and a zonal press is two very, very different things. Teams still won 55% because
Yeah,
if we remember back to the definition, limited movement only takes one player to move, and against a player to player press, you only need one. But against a zonal press, teams only won 39% of their kickouts against a zonal press, which is it's catastrophic. That's the only word that you can have on that in terms of, trying to win possession and get up the pitch. If you can think 39% of your kickouts, that's the opposition turning you over. And that could be attack after attack after attack. So it just shows what you're facing. If you're facing a zonal press, you really, really don't want to be caught in that limited movement
yeah.
situation.
So, lads, we're learning tonight kickouts and ladies football. the ability for your goalkeeper to have the confidence to see something, commit and execute, and also the synergy with the outside players are vitally important. And if you'd like to learn more about patterns of play or even around this, our level 2 ladies football course is something that goes into this in more detail. And we actually have a webinar around patterns of play as well, guys. Give a look at it. It's on our LGFA YouTube channel. Give a look at your own time. We go through the patterns as well in more detail. So the purpose of movement versus the flat four.
Yeah, so as we say, they are the two that remain the most successful against the zonal press. When you're facing that big zonal press with over 8 players, they're the two ones that we found teams get their kick out away. Do you know, 85, 86%.
Yeah.
If I came in on a Sunday with that percentage of a retention, I think I'd be okay. You know, I'd be happy enough. So that's the two that we found. They're your go-tos. And it's the same with the player press. Then you have your purposeful movement and that bunch and break. So do you know each strategy has its flaws, but it also has its benefits too, in terms of, and it's how you utilize the strategy. So as we say with the kick in the earlier part of the thing, you've got to have all three in the locker. Same with strategies. You've got to have more than one in the locker, that if something starts to not go too well, you've got to be adaptable to go, well, you know what? Try and solve this problem now. You're always trying to give the opposition problems and go solve this, or, you know, try and beat me at this. So it's just different ideas for you, and how this is senior intercounty teams. So this is the best of what we have in the country doing that. And you can see that they're still not perfect, you know, and so if we have our senior intercounty teams not being perfect, I think it's important that we don't expect our young kids, and you know, we have patience with them
There's
and
going to be
let them,
mistakes. There's going
you
to be
know,
mistakes, isn't there, Aoife? You're going to have to trial and error. You're
yeah.
going to know what type of players, who you have, what type of players you have. You got to know, obviously, the abilities of your group as well. But you got to practice. You got to practice. You got to
Yeah.
repeat. You guys do with no opposition, semi-posed
Mhm.
opposition, and then a full opposition. You got to go through more than one strategy. For all this to work, you need to have the technical ability, the tactical awareness, decision making. There's so much involved. There's just the days of
There's
getting
so
the
many
ball
strings to,
and just kicking it out now. It's yeah. Geez, that was very interesting
yeah.
stuff. I hope people enjoy that,
Mhm.
and in the
Mhm.
chat function, let us know what your thoughts are. I suppose just there is other areas in competencies in the goalkeeping, and I suppose for everybody here, when you are coaching the other areas of goalkeeping, there's the high ball, which is a big one nowadays. Football, that high ball. So keeper words about rise to meet the ball with your leading hands, keep eye on the ball, W shape on the ball, and I suppose that's vitally important. Handling in ladies football, in particular for our goalkeepers, soft W, when they're catching a high ball, or a hand should be soft, and you should always have the body, I suppose, the hands in front of the body to make sure that the ball doesn't slip through the hands or wherever it may be. So just key phrases and key kind of coaching points we need to be aware of when you're coaching your players. Even if you know these basic coaching points, then you're doing your goalkeeper a lot of service. Come on to the LGFA goalkeeping courses, guys. We'll go into more practical about these things as well. But yeah, so it's just footwork again. It's just making short shuffle steps, stay on your toes, feet shoulder width apart, hips and shoulders square to the ball. So just small little tips like this, little buzzwords really do help
Mhm.
when you're trying to coach the player, in particular goalkeeper, around these key areas. And we'll show you a few activities now in a minute. You can be practicing your sessions. But I suppose at the end of the day, Aoife, it's like diving. Once we know
Mhm.
the key buzzwords, once we know what we're looking for, then we can coach the game. So for that diving, it's landing on the hips and shoulders, focus on the hands, attack the ball. And there's two types of dives. There's the collapse dive and there's the extended dive. So the collapse dive is when the player is close to the ground and needs to get their legs off the ground and out of the way extremely quickly. You've extended dive that can be performed either along the ground or in the air. So I suppose it's really kind of just knowing, for a coaching perspective, what is it I'm looking for? And then obviously once I know what I'm looking for, I'll be able to coach it, Aoife. And that's the important part, really, isn't it, from a coaching perspective?
Yeah, exactly. Know what you're looking for and coach it. But the biggest thing, especially if you're working with young girls, or a new goalkeeper or somebody, if a goalkeeper that you're working with hits the ground, hits the deck, I would be straight in encouragement. Well done. That was brilliant. Do you know,
Yeah.
it's fear is one of the biggest things that stop people and goalkeepers from diving. It's that
Mm.
fear of hitting the ground. But once you see it, I would be straight in encouraging them, going, "Oh, well done. That was brilliant."
because when it's done well, look at this. I was actually
Oh
at
my
this
God.
game.
Yeah.
Unbelievable save. Now I tried to slow it down and I put in the wrong clip. But anyway, look, you can give a look at it here. Unbelievable save. Like a real high pace. Like what a
And
dive.
that's that extensive dive. That's the extended dive that we're talking about. It's where, that's going what we call top bins.
Yeah.
And it's, it's full stretch. She's up. And that's that extended dive where you're really, really stretching just to get whatever you can on the ball. And that's just phenomenal. So it is. It's
Phenomenal.
absolutely brilliant.
And
Yeah.
then we have this one, Aoife, you'll remember very, very, very well. Okay, so
Unfortunately,
tell me
yeah.
what's happening here for people from a diving
Yeah.
perspective.
So from a diamond perspective, if you just watch Monica, there's something really, really important before Karen even gets on the ball. If you look really closely, so if you go back, say a few seconds, watch from when Karen kicks it to when Monica, where she starts now and where she is now. See them 2 steps? They are crucial for Monica to make this save in terms of she's closed the angle, she's narrowed it down, and then it's a collapse dive. It's simple. The collapse dive is the simple one. So by her taking them 2 steps, it's then I think we're going to touch on it in a second. It's narrowing the angle. It's getting up off your line. Her feet are narrow. It's the footwork. Her feet are narrow. She steps quickly and then she collapses. After that, then she makes a save. She gets up, she plays and goes, "Way you go, girls! I've done my job. Go play." Do you know?
And yeah,
So
yeah,
it's just that's another fantastic save, and it's probably me saying that's simple is probably it's not simple, because there's so many. It's the same as the kicker. There's so many factors that go into that, but by taking 2 steps forward, it's narrowing the angle, and it makes it a collapse dive that the ball
yeah.
goes into the chest.
I think the
Anyway,
extended dive was unbelievable. Oh my God, when I
yeah,
saw it on the day, the whole crowd just gushed. They go, "Oh my God!"
yeah.
But then obviously the
It's
collapse
one for the cameras. That's what they
one for the
call it. It's
cameras,
the
but
camera
also then the
save.
class dives. But we have to get our players used to these dives,
Yeah.
so it's very important we know what we need to look for so we can coach them.
Mhm.
So positioning 1v1 is another thing, guys. Positioning, and I suppose the key buzzwords we always say is in the line, down the line. So if the Aoife's coming at me, I'm going to get in the line of Aoife. I'm going to narrow that. Okay, I'm going to reduce that angle. I'm going to go down the line, make myself as big as possible. And that's very similar to what I suppose Monica did there, where she just
Yeah.
narrowed that angle by taking 2 steps
Mhm.
forward. And that 1v1, timing your approach according to the attacker's steps. Again, just observing where the attacker is at. Are they soaring? Are they hopping the ball? When's the right time to close it down? And again, it's just
Yeah.
been, I suppose, when we're doing these 1v1 drills in training and stuff, that we're giving a bit of feedback to the goalkeeper as well on what to do. Because sometimes, and I'm going to show you a few clips now, guys, on these, but it's just important that we do give feedback to the goalkeepers as well. And it's not all about the attackers getting, banging the net with goals as well, Aoife, do you know?
Yeah, exactly. If you're doing a drill that you're trying to incorporate your keeper in, make the keeper actually be able to save the ball. But this is Anna Carr in this video here, and probably in terms of 1v1 shot stopping, probably one of the strongest in the country at it. It's you see her there, she's out, she's narrowed the angle, she moves her feet, and then she gets her hands to the ball. So there's so many things to this. In terms of she's come out, she's stepped out, she's brave, she has her head at the player's feet. And she's out, she gets her hands down to the ball and she makes that save. And the thing is, she's up straight away. The play's still going. She can't lie down and go give herself a pat on
Yeah,
the back and go, great save.
exactly.
She's up and she's up.
And it's like normal when you're practicing your blocking in training with
Mhm.
players. Same thing applies here. Blocking, players going to do a diving block. Goalkeepers do the blocks all the time. So again, it's getting exposing players to all the various skills of the game, and goalkeepers play a big role in that as well. So it's be brave, be big, eyes on the ball, narrow that angle, get fast in your line, and get the body across the line of the shot. So I like that, Aoife, by you, whereby you're just giving those simple buzzwords, those simple instructions can really help a goalkeeper, can't they?
Yeah. Like in terms of if I was going 1v1, all that goes through my head is be brave and be big. If you make yourself as big as you possibly can and narrow that angle, you're giving yourself a fighting chance. So even you're playing and you have a young girl or somebody in nets and they're in a 1v1, even if you let a wee shout out from the line going, be brave, be brave, be
Yeah,
brave, they can think that in their head and go, maybe I will be here, and it's keeping. Sometimes we see where we turn our back to the ball and try and, take it on the backside rather than take it,
yeah,
staying face forward. It's being that face forward, be brave, get out and make yourself as big as possible. It'll only sting for a couple of seconds, but the save that you make will feel better than what the sting may feel like off the ball hitting you.
Exactly. So, guys, to finish off, we're going to show you a few activities that you could do in your sessions. Here they are. Give a look at them. Look at this is just a handling. This is a normal warm up ball formalization activity, and the goalkeeper's actually at the end. Again, getting used to the ball, getting used to the handling, getting used to the movement of the feet. Like this is stuff that you do with all players. But look at the goalkeeper at the end is also practicing as well. So very important that we practice handling the ball various ways, just getting a feel for the ball, various movements really, really helps. So like this is just a very simple activity you can do with your goalkeepers, with all players, which is just getting used to the ball. And look, every player has a ball. The more balls you have in the sessions, the better. The more handling players get of the ball, the better. Again, it's all different activities. So simple. These are all on our LGFA YouTube channel, guys. So you can give a look at them. So we're just practicing our kicking, we're practicing our soloing, we're practicing our near hand tackle. So there's loads of stuff you can do that you can implement that will be applicable to the goalkeeper as well. So here are other ones, guys. We'll just play it here. You can watch them your own time. You can practice in your sessions, and you could do these at academy level. So you could have a station for underage kids, and this could be a station where just practicing the high catch, practicing, getting the ball into the body, practicing the dive. So Aoife, all these things are so simplistic. This is actually a
So
goalkeeping camp
simple.
we did. They're very simple, aren't they? Really, in nature.
Yeah. Like
That we
that's
can
and that covers so much. That video there in itself covers so much. You know, you have your high ball coming out, narrowing the angle, your distribution, what we talked about, the kicking, and then facing that shot. You know, being brave enough. That's the scoop there that keeper's after doing. You know, there's so many things, and all that is it's so simple. You know, everything is so simple. That's what I would always say. Never complicate things. You know, you'll make your biggest improvements by keeping things simple, but doing the simple things well. You know, it's
exactly.
doing these simple things well is what makes a really good goalkeeper.
And I
Like this
think,
is, you know,
yeah. This is stuff like
brilliant.
you could do with your eights, under tens in a station, couldn't you? Just get them used to it. All
Yeah.
players could try it out. All players could try it, couldn't they?
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that's really important, especially eights, tens, 12s, you know, 14s when girls are young. Get everybody doing a goalkeeper session. You know, it doesn't, you don't have to be stuck. Well, I don't want to use the word stuck, but you don't want to, be narrowed into a position at that stage. Let everybody play everywhere. Give everybody the insight to, try it. What's the worst? They might not like it. They've tried it. Do you know that kind of way? But these are all, I would always say, if you're some of the outfield players could catch the ball as well as some of our goalkeepers, I think we'd be flying because it's the bread and butters of a goalkeeper, being able to catch the ball, being able to, you know, work and handle the ball. So it would do no harm for all of your players to get involved, do a session, because this is working on more than just goalkeeping here.
Exactly, everyone. So yeah, so hopefully these are helping you out, guys. We're just showing you a few ideas. There are little stations you could do. It could be part of your movement quality in your own sessions where all players involved. Here they're using tennis balls, but like here's where you could break up the stations. You can have multiple players doing different activities. But again, all these activities are just as required for outfield players. So again, it's just
Hmm.
using the imagination, keeping it very, very simple and applicable to what you're trying to achieve with your goalkeepers. So these are just little ideas that you can use, guys, in your own time. They're all on the LGFA YouTube channel. Please give a look at them. They're very simplistic in nature. Again, this is just about handling, so simple, over and back, but they're also working on your footwork as well. So just small, simple ideas that can you implement into your sessions at any age group. These are just we'll just say we show them to you. Okay. So I suppose to finish off, I suppose communication is a big one. Aoife, uh,
Yeah,
be loud, be
100%.
repetitive, be specific to your demands, work from the ball outwards. But if there was one or two key points you would say from a communication perspective, what would they be?
Yeah, the words that I would come up with was be short and be sharp.
Be short and sharp.
So short and sharp. So if you have a cornerback, be short. Tell him inside right and sharp so that it's that short, sharp communication because we all know when we're playing a match, there's 1,000 things going through your head at one time trying to organize. So if you're telling Mary, a cornerback, oh, Mary, there's a player coming, she's 10 yards away, you know, Mary's not going to listen to you.
Yeah.
So it's be short, be sharp, be loud. It's the other one. Sharpness and loudness, I would put it into the same kind of categories, that you're short, you're sharp, but they can hear you. That's what I would always try. And a goalkeeper's head, I would always say, is a swivel head. So because we can see everything, we can see everything on the pitch. So the plays coming down the left, we're constantly swiveling still to the right hand side to see what's going on, because everybody will be looking at the ball, but we can it's what, not even a second to check your head and go, what's on my right shoulder if the ball's coming down the left. So short and sharp, and be as loud as you can to let them know what's going on.
Yeah, so look, everyone, I suppose, in order for people to be loud and to be repetitive in their demands and to work with outfield players, you need to practice in your sessions. You need to practice
Yeah.
these things. You need to practice your calls. What are those calls? If people are clear on what it is they need to do, then it will make a huge difference. I suppose one
Mhm.
comment came in there, in terms of under 16, 45 players, no goalies. Any tips on how to sell it? Well, practice it, in terms of, I suppose, every player practicing their sessions and having a key focus around it, but also maybe get everybody to experience it. Maybe give everybody an opportunity to experience the goalkeeping setup. Say for next week, we're going to try X amount of players and try that out. I would also, in my sessions, Terry, is I always get my outfield players to actually playing goals in some sessions, because then they get a greater appreciation of the role as well. So I actually do that sometimes, where I put my outfield players in goals because they get a great appreciation of the role. But definitely in your sessions, there's a key focus around that area. But I think, though, we need to get them exposed to goalkeeping from an earlier age, that they're not coming to under 16, not being exposed to that, because it's very hard to set it later as it goes on, Aoife, isn't it, really? Do you know?
Yeah, yeah, very hard. Like, I when I was playing, it was from I was 5 and 6, and it was just from being out in the back garden. The neighbour was over, and we just took turns going in nets.
Yeah,
Out kicking a ball. It's something so simple as that. That if we can encourage it at a young age, that at under 12s, 10s, it's them go games ages
yeah,
where everybody just cycles around. Everybody plays everywhere, and that's how you find your goalkeepers, and that's how
exactly. So,
that's
so
how
I, and
they happen.
that's why we're doing these webinars, Aoife. That's why we have the Go Games Workshop, the new one, F2, because
Mhm.
we want to introduce goalkeeping concepts, even though it's applicable to all players, earlier, as soon as possible. If you're in your academy, have a station on goalkeeping, even though the activities are for everybody. But we have in the mindset, oh, this is goalkeeping. We're all trying it out, and let's develop that love for that position earlier, so that when we do come to the later age groups, we're not struggling to get goalkeepers, because they've actually, we want them to develop a love for the position, don't we, really? And that's what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah,
From a
exactly.
psychological point of view, really, a goalkeeper is maintain concentration the entire game, I suppose. That's where the strategies come in, everyone, the patterns of play. You have to assist, I suppose, and we have to develop our players around these areas to help them maintain that concentration. And what are those key buzzwords? If a mistake is made, then it's the next ball or next play. Same as outfield players. If a free taker missed a free, then they have something in their mind going, okay, next free or next ball. So we have to build confidence around having these little strategies in place, that we all support each other, and that we're not probably being negative in our emotions or our
Mhm.
approaches or the things we say or our language when something goes wrong. It's all about being, I suppose, instilling this early in sessions into DEFA.
Yeah, yeah, and the goalkeeping position, it's a very lonely position. And that's why I would say, if you can, it's in that commit, go back to that commit thing. You have to be confident enough to commit it
Mm-hmm.
and to instill that confidence. You have to, it's always about, you make a mistake, but get up and go with it, go again. And that comes from coaches, and that comes from fellow players, and, you know, parents and guardians and family members, friends. It comes from everybody, that instill that confidence within your player, and they'll be able to deal with setbacks then, because they are inevitable.
Yeah,
They do happen. That's
they
just
do
sport.
happen. And they
So,
happen all over the pitch, don't they? But they happen everywhere. You know.
exactly. Exactly. But unfortunately, as a goalkeeper, a mistake happens sometimes, and sometimes the ball's in the back of the net when a mistake happens.
I know, it's
But
horrible.
it's about dealing with that, and the coach understanding that, nobody tries to let a goal in, or nobody
Yeah,
tries to kick the ball away
yeah.
on purpose. And that's,
But goes
important
back
as
goes
well.
back to my point earlier on. There's 14 other players there to have a role to play,
Hmm.
ensuring the ball doesn't go into the net as well. So I think understanding that it's just, that it's everybody that plays a role here in what we're trying to do. I suppose difference in coaching goalkeepers, teenage goalkeepers and adult goalkeepers. I don't know, is there any major difference? But I suppose from a teenage perspective, it's all about really, I think an adult goalkeeper can probably deal with setbacks a lot easier and maybe have a higher confidence rate, whereby a teenage level, that confidence mightn't be where it needs to be. Maybe we don't have any strategies. Maybe we're not practicing those strategies as well to assist with that confidence level. And I suppose is really dealing with setbacks is really, I think, would be probably the major, that psychosocial element, but also the tactical element would be where I suppose there may be a major difference in that, okay, at adult level, we really hone in on these strategies and how to deal with setbacks. Where maybe at teenage level, we don't really work on them as much as we should. Hence why, patterns of play are very important.
Yeah. One of the things, it's just the basics. If you can get your teenage goalkeepers really sound in the basics, it means that when they go to that adult level, the intensity in their sessions can increase
Yeah,
and they can take on that extra strategic stuff.
yeah.
They can take on that stuff because they're not focusing on trying to make a really simple save. It comes natural for them to make a simple save that they can focus on, the strategic elements
And
in
it
it
goes
too.
back to the basics, everyone involving the session more in the warm up, in the ball formalization, in the activities you're doing, your patterns of play. Obviously, they can do their, so like you'll be doing a lot of movement quality with your players as well. So involve them more. In terms of, okay, well, if you're doing a small sided game, if you're doing a whatever it may be, if you're doing patterns of play, the goalkeeper is a vital cog in those things as well. When should they specialize? I suppose we advocate from under 14 up. I think they should all experience as much as they can up to go games and given that opportunity. But again, how we structure our sessions and ensuring their stations and they're exposed to these goalkeeping activities from an early age is great. And everybody gets an opportunity. I think from under 14 upwards, Aoife, that's where it really kind of starts to read, where they start to zone in on, I would like to be a goalkeeper. But we have to
Yeah.
expose them to those things prior to that as well. So those simple things like those movement quality activities, those ball handling activities, those fun activities with the tennis ball, exposing all players to those activities will develop that love for it as well. And once it all go back to confidence. If a person feels confidence in something, then they'll try it out and they'll be more willing to be involved. And I suppose if you don't have coach support with a goalkeeper, then even showing the girls what to do. If you've more than one goalkeeper, or maybe you have an assistant coach that help with, you're going to have to have more than one in the coaching session anyway. Just giving them the confidence, even going to listen to this webinar, going to our workshops in the coming weeks, getting more confidence in coaching. They can assist with doing some simple activities with goalkeepers to help them develop their goalkeeping skills as well. And that's what we're trying to do here with these webinars and the workshops, Aoife. Is there anything you want to add there, Aoife, before we leave people go?
No, I would always just say encourage the girls, have a go.
Yeah.
Have a go with it. If you don't, if you're not a fan of it, it's not the end of the world, But and from coaches, don't shy away from, trying to do a wee goalkeeping session, yourself.
Yeah.
Because the girls themselves won't know. They, 9 times out of 10, they'll just think, oh God, this is something new. Never be shy to try something and go online. There's loads of resources there. Get stuck in. Like the LGFA have so many different resources available that you can go and have a wee look at and have a go at it. That's what I would always say is never ever shy away from trying to do a goalkeeping session
Exactly.
because
It's our role. It's our role as coaches, guys. We have to develop all players, so we have to.
yeah.
Now I see Audrey there about other, the outfield players giving out to the goalkeeper. That goes back to the culture of the group. You know,
Hmm.
that goes back to the culture of the group, in my opinion, and how we treat each other, how we respect each other, how we understand the importance of everybody's role. And that's why I always do that every now and then, Audrey. I throw a goalkeeper in goals or an outfield player in goals, just so they feel and they experience what it's like to be in goals and how lonely it can be at times and how they feel that when 4 or 5 goals goes past them. So they get an empathy and they understand of, well, what it's like to be in goals. But I think that comes back to the culture of the group as well. No player should ever, give out to their opposition. And even adult players or leaders in the group shouldn't be happening. So I think that goes back to a bigger thing that we need to work on is the culture in the group and how we treat and respect everybody within the group as well. So look, even before I'm going to ask you for your one or two key take home points, what would they be? But our next live webinar is a player development program. We have an LGFA player development program, guys. We don't do development squads anymore. We don't do academies anymore. We'd love to give you an opportunity to listen to about the program and give you a better understanding of what it is. And I suppose if you'd like to get involved in your county around the player development program, then come on Thursday 13th at 8:30 p.m. We'll go through it. Aoife, what are the key take-home points? What would they be in 30 seconds?
See, commit to execute. Goes the
See,
whole way
commit,
through.
execute. I love it.
Goes the whole way through it. Yeah, goes the whole way through it. Let them see it. So if they want to be a goalkeeper, let them see it. Take them to games. Let them see their senior keepers. Let them see how cool this can be. So take them to their county games. Get them to Croke Park All Ireland Finals Day. What better way to go and see it? Commit to it. It comes from confidence, 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 and execute it. Execute it then. Go at it.
Yeah,
Have a go.
exactly. So loads of role models there now in ladies football. Look at the saves we're showing
Yeah.
tonight. Look at the videos we're showing tonight. Share them. Expose our players to this very early. So I'm saying start an academy level, have a station. Get everybody to try out the position as much as we can up to the 12. And that goes back to every player understanding that everybody needs to be tried. So if every player wants to try out every position outfield, the goalkeeper is a part of that. And I suppose players understanding the role of the goalkeeper and the importance of the goalkeeper. And then I suppose at the end of the day, expose the players to all the various skills, to all the various strategies, to all the various patterns of play. We need to think about the goalkeeper a lot more in our planning of our sessions as well.
Mhm.
So look, on the LGFA YouTube channel, guys, there's webinars on patterns of play. There's other webinars on goalkeeping that we've done. Look back them over in your own time. We have loads of videos that you can use for the activities you can implement in your sessions. And sure, why not come along to our workshops over the coming weeks? We'd love to see you there and get your feedback as well. On that note, Aoife McColgan, thank you very much for tonight. Your research was
Thanks, guys.
unbelievable. And it's really helped us as well with what we're doing around this space. So Aoife, I just want to say thank you very much for your time tonight. To everyone who's been
Thanks,
here,
guys.
we hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for your patience. And we hope you enjoyed tonight. We hope you took something from tonight's session. And we look forward to seeing you over the coming weeks and months. And the best luck at your coaching as well. Any questions or queries, you know where we are. On that note, thank you very much and good night, everyone.